Hello there, very good evening and welcome to the news tonight, your one-stop for the day's top stories. I'm Tracy Shilshi and here are the headlines. Rohingyas are not refugees as they have not taken asylum in India, says Home Minister Rajnath Singh, asks why people are objecting to deporting the illegal immigrants when Myanmar is ready to accept them. Prime Minister Narendra Modi pitches for efforts to boost cooperative sector, says that cooperatives should enter new areas like beekeeping to increase farm and rural income. Two civilians are killed in a grenade attack in Tral area of Pulwama district in Jammu and Kashmir. Many, including policemen, are injured. State Minister Naeem Akhtar has a narrow escape. And Hurricane Maria makes landfall in the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico, triggers heavy floods and destroys hundreds of homes across the islands in the Caribbean. Starting with the latest on the Rohingya crisis, Home Minister Rajnath Singh today reiterated the government's stand on the issue, saying that the Rohingyas were illegal immigrants and not refugees who had applied for asylum in India. Singh also said that India was not violating any international law in deporting the Rohingyas. Meanwhile, in Bangladesh, the stranded refugees claim that they will return to Myanmar only if the country accepts their ethnicity. Home Minister Rajnath Singh once again underscored that Rohingyas are not refugees who applied for asylum but are illegal immigrants who will be deported. Addressing a seminar on Thursday organized by the National Human Rights Commission, the Home Minister emphasized that India will not be violating any international law if it deports the Rohingyas because it has not signed the UN Refugees Convention 1951.
म्यांमार से भारत घुस आए, ये रोहिंग्या रिफ्यूजी नहीं हैं, इस सच्चाई को हमें समझना चाहिए। रिफ्यूजी स्टेटस प्राप्त करने के लिए एक प्रोसेस होता है और इनमें से किसी ने उस प्रोसीजर को अपनाया नहीं है, उस प्रोसीजर का पालन नहीं किया है। रोहिंग्या लोगों को भारत से डिपोर्ट करके भारत किसी इंटरनेशनल लॉ का भी उल्लंघन नहीं करेगा, क्योंकि वह 1951 के यूएन रिफ्यूजी कन्वेंशन का सिग्नेटरी भी नहीं है।
Rajnath Singh clarified there's a procedure to get refugee status. He also said the deportation process of Rohingyas is being misunderstood with the non-refoulement principle. Home Minister's statement in the backdrop of an NHRC notice to the centre over its plan to deport Rohingyas who live across the nation.
Non-refoulement का सिद्धांत उन लोगों पर लागू होता है जिन्होंने भारत में asylum लिया हुआ। किसी भी रोहिंग्या को भारत में asylum प्राप्त नहीं है और न ही किसी ने इसकी कोई एप्लीकेशन भी आज तक दी है। इसलिए ह्यूमन राइट्स का हवाला देकर इलीगल इमिग्रेंट्स को रिफ्यूजी बताने की यह गलती कम से कम नहीं की जानी चाहिए।
The NHRC clarified its stand and said that it only brought the issue of Rohingyas on humanitarian grounds and has refused to divulge on the centre's stand. Meanwhile, Muslim groups held protests in New Delhi against the government's decision, even as the Supreme Court is all set to hear a challenge to the proposed repatriation. Protesters demanded that the government should at least provide shelter to the 40,000 refugees who fled their homes in Myanmar's Rakhine state after a military crackdown.
हमारी मांग ये है कि हिंदुस्तान जो है वो बर्मा के रिफ्यूजी को पनाह दे दे और हिंदुस्तान में कोई स्पेशल हिंदुस्तान में नहीं आ रहा है, इसलिए कि हिंदुस्तान की सरहद बर्मा की सरहद से जहाँ से मिल रही है तो कुछ लोगों को वहाँ से जान से मारा जा रहा है, उनके हाथ पैर ये काटे जा रहे हैं, तो अपनी जान बचा के भाग रहे हैं। अब उनको ये भी नहीं पता कि हम हिंदुस्तान में जा रहे हैं कि दुबई में जा रहे हैं कि पाकिस्तान में जा रहे हैं, तो वो जो बेचारे हिंदुस्तान में जो आ गए हैं उनको कम से कम हिंदुस्तान को चाहिए कि हिंदुस्तान पनाह दे के अपनी वो फराख दिली का ऐलान करे।
Rohingya Muslim refugees camping on the Myanmar-Bangladesh border are willing to return to Myanmar if their ethnic identity was accepted and recognized by the government.
Shanti go di file mane ke border aga ura mane bo tora bogula jai file ba shanti ho lara jai file kushi go di file jai baju to ara entu khare na mane no la ara dodar dukh khosh sola kori bodi ara jai e solina file ara ke to jai mara ro launch mare furat di file gor furat di file goli mare kya garo ara khengu jai baju.
The Rohingya crisis has drawn international condemnation and raised questions about the commitment of Myanmar's Aung San Suu Kyi to human rights. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. We'll keep an eye out on developments there. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a cooperative conference in New Delhi today. He said the cooperatives must explore new areas to double farm income by 2022. He also stressed on the importance to keep the cooperative spirit alive and strengthened.
Addressing a conference in New Delhi on Thursday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi called on the cooperatives to venture into new business areas like beekeeping and seaweed farming. This, he said, will help farmers to double their income by 2022 and boost the rural economy.
2022 हमारे किसानों की आय दोगुना कैसे हो, ऐसी कौन सी चीजों को हम जेड़े, ऐसी कौन सी गलत आदतों को छोड़े ताकि हम हमारे कृषि जगत को भी, हमारे ग्रामीण जीवन को आधुनिक भारत के संदर्भ में तैयार करें, विकास की उस दिशा में तैयार करें। अब ये तो संभव नहीं कि शहर तो आगे बढ़ जाए और गांव को हम पीछे छोड़ दें।
The Prime Minister suggested reversing the trend whereby Indian farmers buy their farm inputs in retail prices and sell their produces at wholesale rates. He said this will end farm distress.
किसान जो खरीदता है वो रिटेल में खरीदता है और जब बेचता है तो होलसेल में बेचता है। ये उल्टा हो सकता है क्या? वो खरीदे होलसेल में और बेचे रिटेल में, तो कोई उसको लूट नहीं पाएगा, कोई बिचौलिए उसको काट नहीं खाएंगे।
Lauding the efforts of cooperative movements, the Prime Minister said it's natural for the cooperative sector to grow and shine in India.
अनगिनत क्षेत्र पड़े हैं जिसमें आज भी सहकारिता क्षेत्र के हवा नहीं पहुंची है। जहां पहुंची है वहां स्पर्धा बहुत है। शुगर होगी स्पर्धा बहुत है, दूध है स्पर्धा बहुत है, जहां पर कुछ न कुछ है वहां स्पर्धा स्वाभाविक भी है। क्या हम एक नई पीढ़ी को नए स्पिरिट के साथ और खास करके ग्रामीण जीवन में आमूलचूल परिवर्तन लाने के लिए सहकारिता आंदोलन में प्रेरित कर सकते हैं क्या?
The Prime Minister was addressing the birth centenary of Maharashtra-based cooperative leader Lakshman Madhav Rao Inamdar, founder of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh's cooperative wing Sehkar Bharti. Inamdar was also a mentor to Narendra Modi in his early years in the RSS. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
In more national news, 2 civilians were killed in Pulwama's Tral town today. This after terrorists detonated 2 grenades at a busy bus stand in the town. Here's a report.
2 civilians were killed in a grenade attack in Tral of Pulwama district in Jammu and Kashmir on Thursday. More than 6 people, including policemen, were also injured in the attack on a police party stationed near the Tral bus stand. Jammu and Kashmir Minister for Public Works Naeem Akhtar, who was also there at the time of the attack, escaped unhurt.
आंसपाटा में पता नहीं है लेकिन ग्रेनेड हुआ है, बाद में फायरिंग हुई है फोर्सेस की जानिब से, फिर बहुत सारे जख्मी हुए हैं जबकि 2 सिविलियंस की डेथ भी हो गई वहाँ पे और बहुत सारे सिविलियंस इंजर्ड है।
वहाँ ग्रेनेड हो गया, फिर हमको पता नहीं है, वहाँ फायरिंग के साथ हो गया, फिर ये जख्मी हो गया तो इनको लिए गया वहाँ अस्पताल।
Meanwhile, 2 separate incidents of cross-border shelling injured 3 civilians. Pakistani troops targeted Indian border outposts and villages along the international border in Arnia sector of Jammu and in Samba district. While the injured were taken to the hospital, several houses were damaged and over a dozen cattle were killed in the firing.
The recalcitrant neighbor that we have, it will continue to try and foment trouble here, but our security forces will ensure that the games that are being played from across the border will be not allowed to succeed.
The Indian Army paid tribute to rifleman Rajesh Khatri, who was also killed by Pakistani troops along the line of control on Wednesday. Khatri had suffered bullet injuries in cross-border firing while he was deployed at a forward post in Jammu and Kashmir's Kiran sector. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
In a letter to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Congress President Sonia Gandhi reminded him of the landmark Women's Reservation Bill and asked him to pass the legislation. She asked the Prime Minister to take advantage of his party's majority to get the Women's Reservation Bill passed in lower house as well. In her letter, Sonia Gandhi wrote that her party supports the legislation, which will be a significant step forward in the empowerment of women. The Women's Reservation Bill envisages 33% reservation for women in Lok Sabha and all state legislative assemblies. The bill was passed by Rajya Sabha on the 9th of March 2010 when the Congress-led UPA was in power. Meanwhile, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi, who is on a 2-week-long tour of the United States, continues his tirade against the government. He has once again raked up the issue of the growing intolerance in India. Addressing a group of NRIs in New York, the Congress Vice President said that most people today are worried about what has happened to India's tradition of tolerance. Rahul Gandhi also invited NRIs to work with his party, saying that they have tremendous knowledge and understanding in different fields, which will help his party.
There are forces in our country that are dividing the country. And it is very dangerous for the country. And it ruins our reputation abroad. Many people in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party asked me, what is going on in your country? We always believed that your country worked together. We always believed that your country was peaceful. What is going on in your country? And that is something that we have to fight.
With that, let's take you through some more national news updates in Nationwide. The Calcutta High Court on Thursday allowed immersion of Durga idols on all days, including Muharram, in West Bengal. It also directed the West Bengal government to make necessary security arrangements. The bench also directed the state government to put out advertisements giving information about the routes and also to ensure amity and harmony between communities. The CBI today arrested former Odisha High Court Judge I.M. Kudisi for helping Prasad Education Trust that's been barred by the government from admitting medical students. The CBI has arrested 4 others in the MCI graft case. A day after television journalist Shantanu Bhaumik was beaten to death while covering the clashes in West Tripura, the police imposed Section 144 today. So far, 4 members of the Indigenous Peoples Front of Tripura have been arrested by the police. Meanwhile, the Tripura Journalists Union demanded a CBI investigation. Local activists in Tamil Nadu called on the government to conserve the moving sand dunes along the newly laid Rameshwaram-Dhanushkodi road to prevent mishaps. According to them, the wall built along the road failed to solve the problem of moving sand dunes and can only be protected by planting trees on both sides of the road. With a quick break here, up next, the top international stories.
Don't be fearful of cancer, but be fearful of delay. Cancer, when it is detected at an early stage, as I said, out of 100 individuals, 100 cancer patients, more than 90 of them will be cured. It is based on that, subsequently, the Department of Science and Technology funded us for establishing a cancer immunotherapy center, as well as develop a dendritic cell vaccine for the treatment of cervical cancer. In addition to this, now we have what is called as immunotherapy. It triggers a response of other immune cells, what we call as T cells, etc. So which will go and destroy the cancer cells.
Watch Eureka with Dr. Thangarajan Rajkumar, Professor and Head, Cancer Institute, Department of Molecular Oncology, Adyar, Chennai, only on Rajya Sabha TV.
Welcome back. There's good news for India on the economy front. World Bank President Yong has said that India has been growing pretty robustly. Yong also predicted a strong global growth for India this year. He, however, called for more cooperation among the multilateral system, private sector and the governments. And he was, of course, speaking at the Bloomberg Global Business Forum meeting in New York, where he said that Japan, Europe and the US, along with India, were growing and there was a leveling out in developing countries. World Bank officials also said that India remains the fastest growing major economy in the world. In June, the World Bank had predicted a 7.2% growth rate for India this year against 6.8% growth in 2016. India and Canada today released a commemorative stamp to showcase the relations between the two countries. The Canadian High Commission and India's External Affairs Ministry held a joint celebration in Delhi on Thursday. The stamps made by the Indian Post and Canada Post have designs developed by both Indian and Canadian designers. This is the first commemorative stamp between India and Canada.
I think it's really a reflection and a celebration of the best that Canada and India have to offer in terms of historical linkages, diversity, and places that value the contributions of the spectrum of society across both countries. And that's not only what Canada's about, it's also what India's about. And that is what the partnership between Canada Post and India Post is about.
This particular case, India, Canada coming together, bringing a stamp on Diwali has a special significance. You know, Diwali is such a great festival, not only in India, but elsewhere. Canada is one among them. Diaspora of Indian people, they are living quite a, they are contributing the growth of the country.
Heading to international news, South Korean President Moon Jae-in has called for the North Korean nuclear crisis to be handled in a stable manner so that peace was not destroyed. Moon told the UN General Assembly that sanctions were needed to bring Pyongyang to the negotiating table and force it to give up its nuclear weapons, but Seoul was not seeking North Korea's collapse.
안정적으로 상황을 관리하는 것도 매우 중요합니다. 우리의 모든 노력은 전쟁을 막고 평화를 유지하기 위한 것입니다. 그런 만큼 자칫 지나치게 긴장을 격화시키기 우발적인 군사적 충돌로 평화가 파괴되는 일이 없도록 북핵 문제를 둘러싼 상황을 안정적으로 관리해 나가야 할 것입니다.
But US President Donald Trump said that his country would be adding more sanctions on North Korea. Tensions have escalated in recent weeks over Pyongyang's missile and nuclear weapons program, despite intense pressure from world powers.
Are you going to place more sanctions on North Korea? More sanctions on North Korea?
Yes. We will be putting more sanctions on North Korea.
Rescue and relief work continued in Mexico a day after a massive 7.1 magnitude earthquake killed over 230 people. Rescuers were searching through ruins of over 40 buildings that collapsed in Mexico City alone. More than 50 people were found alive in 2 of the collapsed buildings. Mexico has already accepted aid from several countries, including Spain, the United States and Japan. Over 90% of electric supply has been restored in the affected areas, but the government has also opened up shelters to people whose houses were damaged in the earthquake.
Se reportan como extraviadas en Puebla y en la Ciudad de México. Solo en la Ciudad de México, más de 1,900 personas han recibido atención médica en instalaciones de salud. La mayoría de ellas ya han sido dadas de alta. Se han restablecido los servicios afectados.
Heading to another disaster zone, Hurricane Maria battered the Dominican Republic on Thursday morning, hours after making landfall in the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico. The storm triggered heavy floods and destroyed hundreds of homes, besides knocking out power lines. 2 people were killed as the Category 5 storm left the French territory of Guadeloupe on Wednesday. The U.S. National Hurricane Center has warned of large and destructive waves. Puerto Rico's governor told residents to brace for the worst storm of the last century. The government opened 500 shelters that can accommodate about 67,000 people. There was also widespread destruction in the independent island of Dominica. Communications in the tropical island of 73,000 people are cut, and its airports and ports are closed. The U.S. and British Virgin Islands, which are still struggling to recover from the devastation of Hurricane Irma, were also on alert, along with the Turks and Caicos Islands and part of the Dominican Republic.
Se diffère là en ce moment. En voyant les vagues, c'est la première fois que je vois ça. Depuis que je suis là. J'ai tout perdu. Ma voiture a été écrasée aussi. Et celle-là, c'est une petite voiture que j'avais retapée entièrement. Et puis voilà, elle est foutue.
Tout est tombé par terre. On a, grâce à Dieu, on a encore la maison. Les toits ont bien tenu et voilà. Mais la solidarité est là. On va se relever. Moi, c'est mon premier cyclone et ça fait très peur.
Pakistani Prime Minister Shahid Khaqan Abbasi has said that the Indus water dispute between India and Pakistan can be resolved. Speaking at an event in New York, Abbasi said that the water dispute is a legal issue and can be resolved within the context of the agreement. The latest talks between the two countries on the long-standing issue called by the UN that took place last week ended without any agreement. Well, let's take it through some more updates of the world in Global Buzz. Tensions were high in the Spanish region of Catalonia ahead of more planned protests by referendum supporters. Police occupied the region's economy ministry as hundreds of protesters remained outside. Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy urged separatists to abandon their plans for an October 1st referendum. He asked the region's government to give up its escalation of radicalism and disobedience. A 17-year-old boy was today arrested by British police in connection with a terror attack on a tube train that injured 30 people. With this, the number of arrests in the case has gone up to 6. The teenager was detained after Scotland Yard counter-terrorism command officers executed a warrant at Thornton Heath area of the city. Police have begun a search of the property where the teenager was arrested under Section 41 of the Terrorism Act. All 6 arrested remain in custody at the South London police station. German Chancellor Angela Merkel looks set to be German Chancellor for the 4th term in the general election next Sunday. Latest opinion polls conducted just days before the election unanimously forecast that Merkel, who has been in power since 2005, will remain at the helm of the next government, irrespective of which coalition will be formed after the election. On to sports, and India's top female shuttlers PV Sindhu and Saina Nehwal crashed out of the second round of the Japan Open. While Sindhu lost to Nozomi Okuhara, Saina lost to Carolina Marin. Sindhu, who defeated Okuhara in the final of the Korea Super Series, lost the game 21-18, 21-8 in a match lasting 47 minutes. Sindhu and Okuhara have faced each other 9 times, with Okuhara leading with 5 wins now. Saina Nehwal lasted just 43 minutes against Olympic champion Carolina Marin before crashing out of the tournament. Carolina defeated Saina 21-16, 21-13. It was the second time that Carolina Marin defeated Saina in straight sets. Both have a career record of playing 8 times against each other, and they are tied with 4 wins each. And here are more updates from the world of sports in Sportsbeat. Indian skipper Virat Kohli elected to bat after winning the toss against Australia in the second one-day international cricket match at Eden Gardens in Kolkata. India lost an early wicket as Rohit Sharma departed after scoring 7 runs. India scored 252 for the loss of 10 wickets in their 50 overs. Skipper Kohli top scored with 92 runs. Kuldeep Yadav took a hat-trick for the Indian side. India lead the 5-match ODI series 1-0.
6 deep within him. Oh, a couple of sixes there.
India won 1 gold and 2 bronze medals on the 5th day of the 5th Asian Indoor and Martial Arts Games at Ashgabat in Turkmenistan. Ajay Kumar Saroj won gold in the men's 1500 meters race in just 3 minutes 48.67 seconds. In the women's Kurash event, Neha Solanki won the bronze in the plus 87 kilogram category and Jyoti in the minus 87 kilogram category. With 4 gold, 2 silver and 4 bronze, India are 7th in the medals tally. Host Turkmenistan is on the top with 50 golds, 30 silvers and 35 bronze medals. Antonio Sanabria struck deep into stoppage time to hand Real Betis a shock 1-0 win over Real Madrid on Wednesday. This was the first time in 74 matches when Real Madrid failed to score any goal. This defeat has left them 7 points behind the leaders Barcelona in the table. Even the presence of Cristiano Ronaldo on his return from a 5-match domestic ban could not break Betis' resistance. Betis snatched all 3 points in the 93rd minute when Sanabria scored with a header from Antonio Barragan's cross. Borussia Dortmund beat Hamburg SV 3-0 on Wednesday to remain on top of the Bundesliga with their 750th league win. They also made a league record of not conceding any goal this season. Goals from Shinji Kagawa, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Christian Pulisic pulled them on to 13 points up. While Dortmund are a point ahead of Bayern Munich, Hoffenheim climbed to 3rd on the table with 11 points. That's all we could pack in on the news tonight. From the entire team here, good night.